But first, a sign of how hopeless public debate has become in this country. It's Labor's plan to cut Australia's global warming emissions to zero by 2050. Totally uncosted plan. And not just cut emissions from power stations either, but from farms and from cars and factories and everything. Net zero emissions.
Let's
Good to be here, David.
Start with a pretty important question about this target. Is it economy-wide?
Well, yes, of course it is, because emissions are about energy, they're about transport. And what we know, David, is that the international scientists are all telling us this is what we need to avoid dangerous climate change. And what does dangerous climate change look like? A 25% contraction in the global economy, a worse impact than the Great Depression.
By the way, that scare from Labor leader Anthony Albanese yesterday, the global warming will make us 25% poorer. I'm calling bull on that. And worse, by the way, is this scare today from former Liberal Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, claiming that opposing Labor's policy of net zero emissions by 2050 is actually to have a policy yourself for an uninhabitable planet. I mean, seriously? If we don't vote for Labor, the planet will become uninhabitable? What planet are these people on? But calm, because this is deadly serious now. You're being told that the future of the planet, of all human life, is at stake, and Labor will apparently save you, but won't tell you how and the cost. The Prime Minister today did at least focus on that last bit, and only the last bit, the cost.
I'm not going to take away their jobs the way the Leader of the Opposition wants to do. I'm not going to turn my back on workers in rural and regional Australia, Mr Speaker, who depend on the commitments that we've made. I'm not going to jack their electricity prices up, Mr Speaker.
But one problem for Scott Morrison is that Liberal MPs in inner urban seats who face challenges from Green candidates are right on board with Labor's target, if not its timeline. Here's Liberal Dave Sharma, who now holds Malcolm Turnbull's old seat.
The world needs to get to net zero by the second half of the century to limit temperature rises.
Now, I think you should be angry about this debate, about the quality of it. You should be angry that, for a start, that Labor's promising a huge change to our economy without telling you exactly how much it will hurt, without even telling you what it will then do to the climate. Pain or gain, it won't tell you. And you wouldn't buy even a toaster from a salesman who won't tell you the price or tell you even if it will work. But neither side of politics is telling you the whole truth. The Liberals, for instance, don't even dare to debate this science. For instance, is Anthony Albanese actually right? Will Labor's plan save us? Is Malcolm Turnbull right? Is global warming really making this planet uninhabitable? And is the latest Greenpeace propaganda rushed out for just this time, is that right too?
Australian communities are being devastated by
unprecedented fires,
extreme droughts
and flash flooding,
all made worse by climate change.
Burning coal and other fossil fuels causes climate change.
Let me at least be straight with you, because those jokers won't be. For instance, is global warming really making the planet uninhabitable? Actually, the opposite so far. The science tells us humans are living longer, we're much less likely to be killed by a natural disaster, the planet's getting greener from the extra carbon dioxide, food crops are getting bigger, cyclones are getting fewer. That's the science. Well, what about the bushfires then? Unprecedented. Well, no, they weren't. They were extremely serious and very tragic, but in the past 100 years, unfortunately, we have had 5 fire seasons that were much deadlier. And today's news poll, by the way, shows that most Australians agree that what most made these bushfires so bad was not global warming, but our shocking failure to do fuel reduction burns. Well, okay, what about the drought that we're told made those fires worse? Well, there again, even our top climate scientists, I'm telling you the science here, this is not just my opinion, even our top climate scientist, Andy Pittman, has admitted there is no direct link between drought and global warming. Here he is.
As far as the climate scientists know, there is no link between climate change and drought. There is no reason a priori why climate change should make the landscape more arid.
And the flooding that we've now seen, is that caused by global warming? Well, once again, our former chief climate commissioner used to claim that global warming would actually stop rivers from filling.
Even the rain that falls isn't actually going to fill our dams and our rivers.
Won't fill our river systems, he said. And last question, could Labor's plan really stop global warming? Again, no. No. Even the chief scientist, who is a global warmist, has admitted that if Australia were completely net zero emissions, stopped emitting our 1.3% of the world's emissions, it would still make about zero difference.
If we reduce the world's carbon emissions by 1.3%, what impact would that have on the changing climate of the world?
Virtually nothing.
Again and again, the science shows that Labor's plan is a fraud, and it so depresses me that you do not get our politicians who are meant to look after you and tell you straight and run the country and ensure the future of your children, that they will not tell you the facts that I just have, which are all scientifically based. You saw I was quoting global warming proponents. Now, it's true that if the warming we've seen over the last 100 years really suddenly did accelerate, really take off, there could be dangers down the track. Let's not be stupid about this. So it is smart to consider nuclear power, which is emissions-free, or to do a lot of research into things that would cut our emissions without really hurting us, like hydrogen power. But to figure out exactly what we must do, we have to first change the climate, the intellectual climate. We need a new climate of respectful discussion where politicians like Labor's Joel Fitzgibbon and the Nationals' Barnaby Joyce would use sweet reason and facts in discussing what to do and the costs of doing it. But here's how it went down just this morning, with Joyce trying to get Fitzgibbon to admit Labor's plan will actually hurt.
What a load of rubbish. What an absolute load of pig manure. He's going to reach out to you.
Why?
He's going to reach out to the coal mines. Don't worry, fellas. We're reaching out to you. We're reaching out to you and saying you're going to lose your job. We're going to reach out to the agricultural sector. Reaching out. Is that how you're going to do it?
If you're going to have an impromptu debate,
why don't you say how you're going to, like, how much are you going to reduce the cattle herd by?
Yeah, I think Barnaby Joyce is making great points there, but I have to say, you deserve better.